Welcome back, everyone, to the Data Science Hangout. Hope you're having a great week. And thank you to Rob, who covered for me while I was out in Park City last week snowboarding. Matthias, I heard there was a great session last week. If you're joining for the first time, welcome. It's great to meet you too. I'm Rachel. I'm the host of the Data Science Hangout. This is an open space for the whole data science community to connect and chat about data science leadership, questions you're facing, and what's going on in the world of data science. I'm just going to let people in from the waiting room real quick. If you ever want to go back and rewatch or share a session with someone who's missed it, we do have a data science hangout site now off of ourstudio.com. I'll share it in the chat in just a moment too. But we really want this to be a space where everybody can participate and we can hear from everyone. So there's 3 ways to ask questions. You can jump in live by just raising your hand on Zoom. You can put questions in the Zoom chat, and feel free to just put a little star at the end of your question if you want me to read it out loud, if you're like in a coffee shop or something. And then we also have a Slido link that I'll share in just a moment here too, where you can ask questions anonymously as well. And we really love this dialogue that happens live during the Hangouts too. So I love hearing people jump in live. If you do find yourself super inspired and have spoken a few times, maybe just consider holding back a bit for others to jump in too. So we want to try and make this as inclusive as possible, and making room for others is an important aspect of that. So just want to reiterate that we love to hear from everyone, no matter your level of experience or area of work as well. But with all of that, I'm so excited to be joined by my co-host for today, Mike Miller, VP and Data Science Team Leader at Engine. And Mike, I'd love to turn it over to you to just introduce yourself and maybe tell us a little bit about the work that you do.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me and getting the opportunity to chat with you all. So like Rachel said, I'm Mike Miller. I'm the VP of our data science group at Engine Insights. So Engine Group is kind of our parent company. So we have 3 really kind of main arms. So EMX, which is our digital like ad serve and programmatic arm. And then we have an agency group, which does kind of typical marketing campaigns and creative development and things like that. And then our insights group, which I'm a part of, is kind of our market research and primary research arm. It's kind of built on, survey research and things like that. So within my department, our data science group, so there's about 8 of us that kind of handle the data science and, some data engineering capabilities. Our main role is advanced analytics, consulting and methodology of primary research. So a lot of proposal work that we come through, we help, design a methodology, what's going to solve the business need, what techniques do we need to, run and do regressions or, conjoint work, choice-based modeling, things like that. So what's the right methodology and kind of strategy to solve the business need? Obviously has some strategic, perspective and kind of future thinking for a lot of our key accounts, kind of planning out, 2022, what's, they got, their budget, they're trying to do X, Y, and Z, so plan out what's the proper cadence or what's the proper, sequence of research. Maybe it's the segmentation that we build on, product optimization and activation. So kind of just strategic partners and thinkers, across, marketing and product development and, customer sat work, CX engagement stuff. So really, full custom research. We do a lot of, innovation as well, as kind of our group is really driven to, drive product development. It's not really necessarily creating new products, but looking at different ways or unique ways to use tried and true methods. Data integration is a big, kind of push over the past couple of years of leveraging, different data sources, whether that's, client CRM data, whether that's, online, search or like online behaviors through cookies and IP match and things like that, to just, keep enriching our data. You can only ask so much stuff in a survey. So leveraging client data or, third party, data that's available for sale, to just integrate that stuff and drive richer outcomes and richer data and, kind of tell a more colorful story. So, That's kind of our remit. A lot of our stuff is kind of, data stewardship. What's the proper use of data? What's, waiting and, when to wait, when not to wait, what are the bounds of waiting efficiencies and things like that. Obviously with statistics, it's kind of the easiest way to lie. So, maintaining quality research and making sure the data is actually telling what it is, because it's very easy for our internal clients and even external clients to say, hey, the data seems to suggest that. Well, it might seem to suggest that, but it's not necessarily saying that. It's not the question asked. It's not the spirit behind the question. So, just to maintain, data quality, maintain, engines, quality and not misleading our clients to say, hey, you might look stupid. If you want to take that leap, that's fine. Like that's on you, but that's kind of not, our recommendation. So, data stewardship is really kind of a core aspect of what our team does and what Engine strives to do is, kind of inform, quality data practice, quality research. Data quality is a huge thing right now with, cheaters and stuff with general survey research. So, maintaining data quality initiatives and things like that. So, and I guess I can talk a little bit about, how we use R in our studio. I think the main, tools that we use within our department are, Excel, SPSS, R, and Python. We do a lot of work with Shiny for like online simulators and deliverables and things like that for, interactive deliverables that we can give to our client, kind of lives on and allows the research to kind of have more shelf life, allows our clients to kind of, basically teach them to fish to kind of more self-sufficient, and creating things like that for them to click and push and click through, research and things like that. So it has been a great tool for us. So
nice. Well, can I ask you, when you say data stewardship, could you explain a bit more of what that means, or just provide an example of?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just, leveraging the data in the proper way. There's a lot of times, we try to use our census boundaries. So going into a survey, we'll use kind of census targets to make sure the data is representative. Whether it's representative census, representative of a client target market or whatever it is. So we try to balance that stuff on the front end so we don't have to wait very often. But a lot of times clients will try to just weight to a story. Hey, this maybe rural is too low, and we think we are getting bad results because there's rural demographic doesn't answer the question properly, or like, hey, can we kind of weight that? So there's a lot of kind of situations there that clients seem to want to tell a story that maybe the data doesn't suggest. So obviously there's ways to tell that story, to manipulate the data a little bit. So it's our kind of responsibility to say, hey, like you can weight it to certain bounds, or you gotta, what's your universe you're trying to weight to. You can't just wait to be waiting. If your data doesn't tell you the story, then that's helpful. A lot of times, with primary research, it's a difficult conversation. You spent, 50, 60, $100,000 on research and they didn't get the answer they want. But, a lot of times that $100,000 that you spent on a research study, maybe saved you millions of dollars before you launched a product. So while it didn't give you the answer you want, you're still in the long term probably saving money, or, okay, we need to re-optimize. We need to change our product, change pricing to, whatever the recommendation may come out of the research, is helpful. But a lot of times clients don't want that answer. They think they know what the story should be. And it's really kind of, hey, we're to run the survey or the research project for validation. Maybe that validation doesn't happen. So there's some conversations around, hey, how do I make that story come out? Like, do I drop data? Do I drop these people for one given reason? Maybe it's data quality issues that they think may not have answered a question right. So it's just, kind of managing those conversations, making sure the data, as long as we design and field and do the data, field the survey properly, there shouldn't be any flaws in the data. And if the data is telling a particular story, there's no real grounds to manipulate it or weight it in a way that you think it should go to try to tell you a story. So, and also, some of the findings, even with analysis of, running some analysis and maybe taking leaps with, simple, example of correlations. Correlations don't isn't causality. So while there's a correlation, doesn't mean that, A is driving B. It's a correlation. So, just those kind of things, and helping. A lot of our clients are not statistical people. They're marketers, they're, product developers or things like that. So, they're not strong in statistics. So it's really kind of teaching them and making sure they understand what the results are telling them, and encouraging them to not, step out of those assumptions, to kind of run with the analysis that may, the statistical method doesn't really, validate that. It doesn't support those claims outside of its, general assumptions.
Thanks, Mike. I think it might be helpful for all of us to put us in your frame of mind too, to understand a bit about Engine and the clients that you are working with.
So, like I said, we, full custom. So a lot of our studies, I kind of grew up with, I came from MRSI, which was then bought by ORC, which is now part of Engine. So I kind of cut my teeth on CPG. So we did a lot of, cereals and, snacks and chips and different things, the general, product optimization. A lot of it's, sometimes it's cost cutting. Can we reduce, the size of a given item, and without people really knowing? So, a lot of new product development. What's the flavor? Does it meet, perceptions of flavor? Do people like it? Is it a test of control? We're changing a sugar content, or we're changing, some kind of recipe, and do people notice a difference without, alienating? We do a lot of insurance work, home, auto, health insurance. So just managing, developing products, if we want a deductible at $2,000, what's kind of the take up rate versus, $5,000. So some of that product optimization. We do a lot of customer satisfaction. So brand health trackers. So just kind of keeping the pulse on the brand. A lot of CX experience. So customer experience work. If you go into a store, was it easy to find what you're looking for? Customer service good? Kind of that stuff. Some urgent care work we just did last week. Your experience at urgent care. Did you have a long wait time? Where you had a courteous receptionist? Was a nurse courteous and helpful? Was the doctor helpful and courteous? Did you get what you needed? Was your insurance covered? So just general experience that pick an industry. We've probably touched it. We do some durable goods. Some durable goods is kind of one of our main clients, like sweeper and development, things like that. So a lot of that's new product innovation, prototypes, and new devices to the market. So a lot of conjoint work. So if we have a product line, if we add something new, what does that do to the product line? Is it incremental, or is it cannibalizing certain things? And then developing the pricing strategy across that line of items. Potentially even stealing share from specific competitors or things like that. So the gamut of what we touch is wide, which I think is a big appeal for why I enjoy my job. Is it's the same techniques, the same kind of solutions, but it's a ton of different industries. You kind of learn enough to be dangerous in many different things. So the variety is very appealing to me. So
yeah, that's cool. I've definitely noticed it's interesting when you talk about products, asking if people will notice if they have reduce the size of it. I've definitely started to notice that during COVID.
I see. And I was if you start to see things, change, or the recipe, or things are slightly I recommended that because people didn't notice. So so it's kind of you get the back seat of product development, and you go out to the market, you're buying these products that you recommended to reduce the size and keep the price. So it's kind of interesting.
Nice. I see there's a few anonymous questions that are coming in right now. And one was, are you feeling the challenges of hiring right now?
I am. We actually we had 2 open positions probably since September maybe. And we just filled one. We have one open, but we're kind of just passively recruiting for that right now. I'm not really sure exactly the skill set we want, because like I said, we play a little bit of in the traditional research, statistical market research, maybe more data science. And then we also have some, data engineering capabilities. So managing larger databases, we don't have a lot of that. So we have probably one guy that's really core to our data engineering team. But we don't really have a ton of that work. We love to get, get our hands on more, data sets and larger data and, kind of do more typical data engineering tasks. But, it's the chicken or the egg. Like, do we need to hire so we can do more of that? Or do we need to do more of that before we hire somebody and justify the cost? So we're kind of figuring out what that second skill set should look like. But yeah, I mean, we struggled for probably a month or two to even find good candidates. We found really good candidates that, felt that they were in range. We got to the offer stage. They had another offer that was completely out of our range. So they accepted another offer. So that happened 2 or 3 times. We got some resumes that kind of passed the initial screener through HR. They get on a call with like a technical member of our team and couldn't even, answer the simplest questions. So, some resumes like, yeah, these look really good, but they can't talk the talk. We've had to change our kind of initial screening criteria many times. Like, we got on, an hour interview and we were basically done in 15, 20 minutes. So yeah, hiring's been a challenge. And that's frankly how I kind of got connected with Rachel of, I was meeting with Kalau, our studio contact, and just kind of mentioned, hey, like, we're really struggling. Like, are you connected with any, our communities or different things that kind of post different jobs? And, I met Rachel through that kind of connection. But yeah, definitely struggling to, fill positions, even get reliable, I guess qualified interviews. And then, the good candidates have multiple interviews or multiple offers that, we lose for one reason or another. It could be salary, could be opportunity, could be, the location of our business. So I'm in Cincinnati, but we have a New York, Chicago based office, but we're all kind of working remote now. So, remote situation is certainly open now with COVID and everything's, kind of more accustomed to that. But yeah, so definitely hiring has been a challenge for various reasons.
I know you mentioned you changed the screening process a little bit. Or are there other like tips or things you could share with us through that process?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, I think our job post has largely stayed the same. I think it was, we just started to add some like qualifying questions that our recruiter could kind of ask, but, they weren't too technical because obviously she's not a data scientist. So like if they gave a response, like, would she know exactly what they're talking about? Or like, so we kind of have basic qualification questions that, we kind of armed her with, like, here's a question, here's a general answer. As long as they don't, like, I have no idea what you're talking about, like, would be a red flag. So, that has worked well. I mean, we've still got on calls where people like, yeah, I really know Python, I really know R. And, our kind of technical person on our team would kind of ask the interview and they're like, oh, I don't even know what a regression is, or I don't know how I would do that. Or I would just Google it was, one guy's answer to many questions. Oh, I just Google it. I Google it, which is fine. We certainly Google a lot, but, some of the basic questions of, how do you manage a database, or how do you create a table? How do you run, frequencies of things? Oh, I Google it. Well, we need more of a foundation than that. So.
Yes. I see, Ethan, you had asked a question in the chat. Would you want to ask that one live?
Yes. Hello, everyone. This is my probably second time joining
Welcome.
Science Hangout. Yeah. Very nice one. So incidentally, I work in a very similar company. Like, we also do consulting and market research and insight. So online simulators and conjoint work is one of the things we do quite often. And I'm just curious about how do you go about managing and maintaining those simulators, especially when you have to deal with credentials and login. Some clients are used to having a single login to a platform where they have access to all the insights and dashboard. Yeah.
Yeah. So typically we'll do it right through Shiny Server. So we have a Shiny Server Pro account. through our studio, and we basically have a server locally that we host it on, and we provide credentials to obviously our internal teams, and then our clients, maybe 3-4 people that get login credentials. They go to a website, we provide the link and publish basically the entire our package and the app and everything to that server, and provide it with a link, and they get access to that. We've also explored, I don't know that we've actually executed this yet, but we have Dappersy for kind of online reporting and things like that, for dashboards and kind of ongoing things. I believe we've explored it. I don't know if we've actually delivered one, but kind of leveraging Dappersy to host some of the Shiny server stuff as well. So if they already have a Dappersy portal, to your point, like they don't want to go to multiple different things, they want to kind of a one-stop shop. So I think we've explored implementation through Dappersy, and it would kind of host that link to the simulator and things like that. So it's been great. I think one of the main attractions to an online deliverable is version control. We used to deliver everything with Excel, and you make edits or you add things to it, and it's, hey, it's version 1, version 2, version 3, and you start sending emails and different things, and it's difficult to share within the client's organizations. And hey, is this the final one? Or like even 3-4 months down the road, like, hey, can you send me that simulator? I'm not sure the great the latest and greatest. It's always on a link, and it's the same link. We can publish edits to it, and it's still the same link. So it's been really good for version control. We've actually had one of our clients kind of regress. So they used to do Excel. We went to Shiny. Now they're coming kind of back to Excel because they want kind of that standalone file. I guess that's one downside to an online deliverable, is they don't have access to that. They can't store it, they can't keep it, and kind of attach it to a given project. So they've kind of come back to Excel, which is fine. I mean, it has certain limitations. Certain large projects Excel can't handle. There's functionalities that we've built within Shiny that Excel just can't do. But they're pretty basic. There's not many difficult things that they typically do in their projects, so it seems to work.
Yeah, I guess one of the main downside with Excel is macros and security. A lot of organizations sort of block those macro-enabled securities, and also version as well. So if you use some of the newer fancy function in Excel, you require other people to also have the most up-to-date version of that.
There's certain things you can't open it with a Mac or things like that. So some clients have Macs, and just macros in Excel. There's a lot of issues with compatibility. So
thank you, and thanks, Ethan, for jumping in live too. Libby, I see you asked a question in the chat too, if you want to jump in.
Hey.
Hey.
Sure. Yeah. So I was wondering if, as a third party who's coming in and helping clients with things, if you ever hit problems around their data maturity or their security protocols, like maybe they want something that their data maturity isn't set to actually help them achieve through you guys.
Frankly, we don't get a lot of client data because a lot of our contacts don't have access to it or can't get it. We would love, we have those conversations, and, they're on board, like, yep, but they either talk to finance or talk to IT or whatever, and like, nope, we're not giving you that data, or, don't have access to it. And a lot of times it's a mess. So they're like, yeah, we would love to get that. We'll talk with our team, and they can't get it, or it's missing so much data that it's not helpful. So, I mean, I think that's a lot of the struggles we run into. There's a lot of techniques that we've explored, like survival analysis and various loyalty databases with like grocery stores and things like that we would love to kind of enrich their data. And, we have these long-standing trackers with them. And, a lot of access to that data would be very helpful. Loyalty, what's a loyal customer? It's somebody that spends certain amount of money of their monthly spend. Well, they only have customers. So like, they don't have lapsed people, or like they don't track them, or things like that. So there's just been struggles of, kind of marrying up the technique that, would be super helpful, that they just don't have the data for, don't have access to it, or aren't willing to share it. So those have been some of the main issues over, in the past couple of years when we've really strived to, use alternative data sources. You're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on yearly trackers or other, ad hoc projects that, we could start to tie things together and make connections between various studies, that their first party data would be super helpful to have, but they just A, don't have access to it, B, aren't willing to give it, or C, it's not, it's got so much missing data or sparsity, or nobody really knows how to manage it on their end. It's an issue.
Thanks, Mike. I see there was an anonymous question that came in a bit earlier too. They said, I crept on your LinkedIn and see that you started as an analyst and you're now a vice president. Impressive. How did that transition go and what did you learn along the way?
Yeah. So I started at MRSI as an intern. So MRSI was a Cincinnati-based, market research firm, fairly small, mom and pop, CPG kind of thing. Started as an intern, was hired on full time as an analyst, very much in the same role where kind of our department is now. We kind of wrote, did the upfront consulting work and then wrote the full report. Right now, we don't write the full report. We just write kind of the advanced analytics piece, kind of more driven to data and innovation and things like that. So it's a little bit morphed. My background is in marketing and entrepreneurship. At NKU is where I went. But I'm certainly not a coder, which is kind of interesting that I'm here on a R studio, data science hangout. I have enough R skills to be dangerous. I know how to read and kind of manipulate things, not really draft it on my own. So a lot of my role is kind of just guiding the team, consulting and doing kind of, hey, this is how we should do it. This is, the statistics that, kind of nuts and bolts of it to actually execute it through R. I know enough to kind of be dangerous. But, there's other people on my team that really justify and help me through those things in terms of like coding. But yeah, I mean, I kind of, have done, kept taking on, some key accounts and, continued through the ranks. Frankly, I was probably got here faster than I expected, I think due to some departures in the company, kind of fell into the role probably, I guess, 2 years ago, 18 months ago. But obviously, the executive team and everything felt comfortable with me taking kind of the lead of the team and, our team is pretty tight knit. So I think there's a lot of that they didn't want to bring in, an outsider to somebody that doesn't really know, corporate culture and the team and kind of upset the apple cart. So, I mean, I think that played a little bit of a role, but obviously, I exemplified the skills that, our executive team felt comfortable with that and kind of making the promotion. But yeah, just, continued to, consult and I guess, execute and deliver on projects that, I've been given. So, but yeah, no, I mean, I didn't expect to be in this role, out of college, 10 years, on the job, running a data science team was certainly not my expectation. So.
Thanks, Mike. When you say you help the team consult and figure out how to work on certain projects, like how do you go about communicating that to the leadership team?
Yeah, so there's a lot of visibility. We're, I guess, we're not a small company, but we're not a large company either. So there's a lot of transparency with the executive team. My mentor was on the executive leadership team. Was basically reports to the CEO of Insights. He then became a manager. He's now kind of stepped back and kind of gone part-time. So I've kind of shifted, different roles. My mentor now is the CEO of Insights. So there's just a lot of visibility, a lot of access to upper management, and, frankly, a lot of key accounts. So, a lot of the key accounts are comfortable coming to A, frankly, me, and B, our team, that we continue to do a good job and deliver, client expectations and manage, their expectations as well, and continue to deliver, quality product and I guess client service is a lot of kind of what we pride ourselves at Engine. We're small enough to have single points of contact. Our clients really get to know our teams, so they'll see people in meetings, it's the same kind of group of people, and have the confidence that, it's going to the job's going to get done. But, in terms of, how the process comes in, they really, a proposal comes in, the sales team will send it, probably to me, and then I'll distribute it across the team. So a lot of our team is not necessarily vertical or industry focused. They certainly gravitate towards certain clients that they know and work with frequently, but more technique based. So like we'll have, segmentation kind of experts, discrete choice experts, maybe CX experts, certain pockets of technique. So, depending on what the proposal calls for, it'll kind of get shuffled to various people on the team. And then they'll consult and say, hey, this is the best way to do it. Here's how, how many hours we expected it to take. And that's kind of our role. Like we're not a sales group. We kind of say, hey, this is how we expect to design it. This is how we would do it. Here's the hours it's going to take. They put that in the budget. It's the sales team's job to sell it and close the deal. And then we kind of then execute on the back end. So, that's kind of the process, how projects kind of move through the shop.
Nice. Thank you. I know you said you work closely with your mentor and when you moved into this role. And I was just curious how, or you mentioned the company isn't that huge, but it's not a small company. So do you have a formal process for mentorship, or how do you go about?
Yeah, so they started like kind of a Spark is what they call it. They have a Spark talent group. And that probably started 2-3 years ago. Based on, employee surveys and things like that, of people kind of got stuck or didn't, feel, training was there, kind of the importance of, career development and things like that. So they kind of set up Spark training. So they have like a monthly, training topic that people can sign up for and attend, and, some LinkedIn learnings and, various things that they have that you can kind of do on demand. They also do like a formal, session with, here's management skills, here's change management, topics, here's, goal setting things, just various kind of career management and career development topics. And then they've kind of identified, along with that, they've identified like key, I guess, high potential employees that they kind of then assign to, upper management or kind of executive leaders as mentors. So within that, I was picked in the high potential groups, and that kind of HR met with me, like, what are you looking for? What do you, how do you want to grow your career? What do you want out of Engine? And then they kind of aligned you to, a given, executive member that kind of, fit those needs and could, fulfill that. So that's how I kind of got grouped with Rich Catrone was my original mentor. He managed broader data operations. So obviously our team, our script and tab group, budgeting compliance, so just general data operations. So I mentored with him for probably a year, 18 months. Then, the departure kind of the vice president of our group left. And I think frankly, that was, the mentorship with Rich, could see who I was, how I was going, my career progression, and kind of said, yeah, let's promote Mike and let him run it. So I think, a lot of those connections and a lot of those, mentorship and just his guidance and my development over, the year, 18 months with him kind of led me to that role. Once he became my manager, they kind of then said, okay, what else? What's the next step? How do you want to go, continue progressing at Engine? And that's how I kind of got lined up with the mentor of Don Simons, our CEO at Insights. So I've been with him, ever since I kind of took the role as vice president. But yeah, it's just continued exposure to the MX group, agency group, kind of what's his vision of Engine and how I fit into that, and how to drive the team forward and what he wants out of us. So it's been great, have him as a friend, as a mentor. Obviously he's a CEO, so got to kind of answer to what he wants and what the vision of the team, but just have a more personal connection with him, and can kind of learn and grow, and hey, where do I need to improve, and kind of have that connection to somebody that not that I necessarily want to strive towards, but can kind of lead me in kind of the leadership and management and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's cool that you have that program there. I was curious if other people had similar like mentorship programs at their company. I know that's something we had like a Slack channel for here at our studio, but I don't think we had like a formal program around it. So curious to hear in the chat too from others. I see there's an anonymous question too that went back to Ethan's comment, and it was thinking about Ethan's comment, does the need to find individuals who are skilled in both advanced Excel and R/Python further complicate hiring?
So I think I was just kind of looking at the chat, and I think this might get at Ethan, your follow-up as well. So within our team, we have kind of pockets of people. So like I said, I'm by no means a programmer or coder in R or Python. I know enough to be dangerous. But there are, one person that's really good in Python. That's his kind of go-to. There's a handful of people that are good and proficient in R. So people really, we're kind of program agnostic. However you want to get the job done, get the job done. If you're comfortable in R, you're comfortable in Python, you're comfortable in SPSS or Excel, do that. When we look for hiring, it's kind of one or the other. I think a lot of candidates we're seeing now have Python skills. I think maybe that's more so taught in college. Some people have enough, they know R, they know how to use it, but they feel more comfortable in Python. I don't, our criteria is not to be proficient in both. Generally our entry level positions is just have a general foundation. If you're better in one versus the other, great. That means you can kind of learn the other if we need you to. But we don't really require to have all of those skills. I think if you know one programming language, you can learn the other one. It's just kind of a general mindset. Yeah, sure, there's nuance and things like that, but most of what we're doing isn't, they're not developing code per se right out of like from scratch. We have a lot of stuff that you're just manipulating and editing and tweaking and, particularly with our Shiny simulators, they're all very templatized, and you just kind of manipulate various pieces, on an ad hoc basis on a given project. There's certainly some development. If there's a new, quirk to the project or things like that, there could be some development and things like that, where you would hopefully have some more proficient, users of R and those skill sets. But yeah, we generally look for just a general coding language. I think, when we had the first open position, we were looking for R particularly because, we needed more Shiny, skills and more proficiency in Shiny and kind of help, we had a gap there. So that was kind of a main focus. Now I said with our open position, we're kind of, we're kind of passively looking. There's not a huge rush to fill that. But I would probably say it's more of a data engineering role. So maybe more Python based. In Azure and cloud computing and things like that is kind of maybe the gap or the lean part of the team right now. So like I said, and again, like we don't have an immediate need for that. So that's kind of, the passive looking. We're starting actually an ATP associate training program, I think in April or May. So kind of more entry level people that across the company. So various departments will kind of go through and learn, here's how this department works, that department works, and kind of get a general understanding of many different departments. So we're kind of maybe waiting a little bit for that. So that project or when that program kicks up in, I think, April or May, that they would kind of maybe be in a couple of weeks or so before that and kind of jump into that program fresh. So that's kind of, I guess, our hiring plan right now.
That associate training program, that's something that came from like leadership?
Yeah, so that came from Spark. So that's been going actually a couple of years, which I was actually on kind of the development team and kind of the execution of that in the first probably 2 to 3 years. And what does our data science department in general need from it? Like, what does that look like? What basic understanding do people not on our team should they have of data science? How do we operate? It's really just, these are the things you should be aware of. If you hear, now you have a basic understanding, or, hey, I heard that buzzword or whatever it is, loop in the data science team, let the technical experts kind of handle those conversations. So it's really just kind of an awareness thing. It's morphed and changed, no training program is perfect. So, we've created, kind of real projects and things for the associates to kind of learn, and this is how our project works. Here's the insights. Here's what data looks like, because most of them are fresh out of college and various roles and various backgrounds and where they came from. So it's, here's what a data table looks like. Here's what a regression output looks like. Here's how to pull, findings and things out of, these analysis and then tell a story and create a report, and, how to deliver that and, present and give those skills to kind of those people fresh out of college.
It's great that you have that. I know on these conversations, a lot of times we've talked about how like time intensive it is to actually train people and bring people on board.
Yeah. So originally it was actually like an 8-week program that you came in and you did this program for 8 weeks. And then we kind of got feedback from, those various managers of those individuals say, hey, like I hire somebody and then I don't get them on my team for 8 weeks. Like that kind of doesn't work. So we've morphed it a little bit of, it's still an 8-week program, but basically you get, probably 2 or 3 days of training. Maybe the mornings are, sessions with trainers and things like that, and kind of walk through presentations. There's some homework and just general, projects to work on and things like that. You can kind of fit in on various afternoons that we kind of block schedule or block time off for them. But then like the rest of the remaining, probably half of the week is them to really onboard with their respective team, to help carry the load. Obviously, if they've been hired, that team needs support. So, they can start to kind of fall into that role and do, client work and things like that. So.
Nice. I see there was another anonymous question that was, how do you build comfort talking to and sharing work with executives?
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of our projects are set up that every project has a primary and a secondary analyst. So you're always with somebody. There's always, whether it's your manager, whether it's somebody else that knows that client, knows that project, or methodology. But it's really just kind of, learned over the years. It's, I'm a silent listener for a while and just kind of hear the flow, hear how things work, hear the presentation style. It's a lot of times it's learning the tendencies or kind of preferences of our internal salespeople, learning the preferences of given clients, what they want, what they expect, how they, are they technical at all? Do they know, any statistical methods? Do they have no understanding of any of that? So kind of you can speak technical or you cannot. So it's really learning the tendencies and preferences, kind of in a safe zone. You're kind of a silent listener where somebody else is doing it. Then you get, oh, here's a slide or two for you. Then it's okay, you're running the meeting on your own. Then it's, then you start to kind of be that person with, a shadow behind you that you're kind of, hey, do this and maybe I'll present it. Or, you just start to kind of, learn and adapt and kind of learn a style and just get that comfort level. I mean, there was many times that, early in my career that, I traveled to a given client. I was there by myself or I was with somebody and say, hey, you're going to present this workshop. You got all day thing. And like, oh shit, like that's super scary. Like, I don't know how I'm going to do with that, but you just kind of get thrown into it and you sink, not necessarily you're going to sink or swim, but your manager, that person who kind of puts you in that position knows you're going to succeed, is there to kind of fill in the gap. You get off track or don't know how to answer a question. It's kind of those tendencies, how, if you don't know the answer, just, I don't know the answer. I'll look it up. I'll get back to you. Don't make it up. So it's just learning those, soft skills, learning those presentation skills, certainly being in uncomfortable positions. And then, as a manager, you kind of learn that like you're going to grow with challenges. So, kind of put people in positions that they're going to succeed. It might be uncomfortable for them, but, I have the confidence in my team or my junior people that they're going to do the right thing, or I wouldn't put them in that position. So, it's the comfort. Once you do it once, it's like, oh, okay, that's not so bad. As I kind of moved into the vice president role, I've presented at more conferences and things like that. And it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I can present at a conference. I've done that. I know the information. I know the materials I'm presenting. So just, it's the anxiety or the fear of talking in front of people, but like, the subject matter, just, you gotta start doing it. So.
Thank you. That's super helpful. Yeah. And I think just with working with so many different industries too, you have to know about so many different
Right.
industries.
I mean,
and knowing
yeah,
how
we
to
had
talk to them.
like a 3D printer client, came to us, and I was like, I don't know anything about 3D printing. And you just start Googling, you learn about their business, you ask questions, we're market research. We're not 3D printers. We're not engineers. So it's like, hey, like, I don't really know your industry. Like, how does this work? Or like, hey, talk a little bit more about what you're trying to do. We're trying to optimize a product or a printer for them. And it's like, I don't know how that works. Like, I don't know anything about it. So you just kind of start to ask, might be stupid questions, but it's like, they can't expect you to know their business. Like, you're trying to help them. They're coming to you for things that they don't know how to do. So, it's that give and take. It's just that comfort level to ask a stupid question. And most of the time, like, yeah, that's a great question. Here's how we do it. So, there's certainly things that industries are like, I don't know anything about that. And you just kind of research it, Google it, there's, ask questions of your internal client team that, maybe they've had a longstanding relationship with this client. They kind of know that industry, or just ask your clients. They can't expect you to know everything about their business.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's making me think about like how we all even work with our own internal clients or different departments across our own companies too. I see there's an interesting chat going on right now as well with Javier and Libby around like the responsibility of consultants as well. Javier, I don't know if you'd be open to jumping in and sharing that comment as well.
Yeah, I mean, my comment was more just to follow up to Libby's question. It was when I was in consulting, I was pretty much providing a very, very specific, like, economic and valuation financial service. We did work with a ton of data though, and there was a lot of modeling involved with it. My job was never to be sort of a, data process consultant. So if some company hired us and 99% of the time data was garbage, it really was not my job to try and fix the problem for them. My job was to sort of clean up the data as best as possible, augment the data with, overrides or whatever it might be, to get it to a place where we felt comfortable, getting to an end result that was reasonable. So, I don't know how many other data consultants nowadays are in the same situation, where it's like you're providing a specific service, maybe a specific statistical study, maybe the end result is, a live shiny app that you're going to deploy for some customer. And if that's the end result, maybe, you shouldn't really worry too much about the process of how the client collects or tracks their data, and, just focus more on how can we clean up their data that needs to be used for the analysis that you're doing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would completely agree with that. I think we consult sometimes, like, we've done some segmentations that, was built on primary survey data, but they also want to tag their database. So like if maybe their database has age, gender, some other, psychographics and things like that of their general business consumer, maybe we, can help them tag their database. But, again, like, they may have that data, they may have sparse data, but it's like, hey, this is how we can deal with it. Maybe you can add some fields to your Salesforce data or something like that to kind of continue to collect and help you kind of moving forward. But yeah, I mean, I don't think many times that we speak, hey, this is how you should be doing it. Or, generally kind of what you said, Javier, is, maybe we're using 10 variables, maybe it has some missing data. Sure, we can impute some data or, some percentage of data, and we'll kind of do the best we can with the data we need and deliver that analysis. And then, that's the rest of their data problems are kind of their problems. We can kind of help consult and say, hey, it'd be great if you could add these data fields going forward. It might help your business. It might help, lead some insights based on what analysis we've done, that these are key predictors. But yeah, I mean, we don't get a ton into, this is how you fix your data issues.
Yeah. Mike, just curious, what's the typical duration of your engagements?
I would say a typical project is probably 6 to 8 weeks, for a general ad hoc. A lot of our more key accounts or things like that, it's kind of just an ongoing thing. It's kind of strategic consulting or, planning. It's general conversations. A lot of clients, we have standing meetings of, weekly or biweekly of just, hey, what's going on? Hey, we got this project, hey, I got, okay, that one's going, it's up and running, kind of getting to the end. Hey, we got these other projects in mind, or we're trying to, plan, budgets and what should we do? What's the sequence of different projects. But yeah, generally it's 6 to 8 weeks. We have some ongoing trackers that, are fielded weekly, monthly, quarterly. So, I mean, those just are continuing general cadence of reporting. There's certainly longer ones, maybe segmentation runs a little bit longer because there's a lot of, iteration through that and workshopping with the client. So, hey, here's a first draft, here's what we're seeing, this is what we think, does that kind of jive? Or maybe there's multiple solutions that we kind of work through and say, hey, this is where we think, here's probably our recommendation, but here's a couple other options. Because again, they know their business. We try to learn as much as we can about their business, but there's things internally, there's internal champions, CEO might want X, Y, and Z that we're just not privy to. So, some of the more advanced or kind of larger projects, maybe those are 10, 12 weeks. It really kind of depends on, I think the biggest kind of time thing is developing the questionnaire. We just did a major global segmentation across 33 countries. It took us 9 months to get the project, to get the survey fielded. It was across, 33 plus, every country probably had its own language. Some countries had multiple languages. So a lot of translation and things like that, and approvals from legal departments and stuff like that. So, I mean, it took us 9 months to get the project up and going. And then we, collected data for probably 2-ish months across all the countries. And then we delivered the analysis in about a month. So, it really just kind of depends on the scope. And a lot of times it's client approvals. A lot of times our clients are the main hang up, to get approvals, get, things through, their stakeholders, make sure everybody's got their fingerprint on it and they feel comfortable with it if they're spending, a ton of money on it. So, a lot of times it's client, client hangups, to kind of stall out a project.
I think part of your answer here answered Robert's question, but I see from the chat, Robert also asked, is it smart to ever decline the engagement or lower expectations if the industry is in a sweet spot relative to your expertise?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably a couple of years ago, we frankly were fairly lean in sales, so we would kind of do the best we could to bid on it. I think now we're certainly in a better spot, but we just somewhat did that, a couple of weeks ago. We just didn't feel that we could do it on the timeline with the scope and the project. We kind of put our best foot forward and said, hey, here's what we can deliver. Maybe we delivered on one of their 3 primary objectives, but just transparent. Hey, this is what we can do. It's going to solve X. It's not going to do A, B, and C. And ultimately we didn't get awarded the project, but we kind of knew that. We frankly didn't really want the project, but I mean, it's one of our longstanding clients. They come to us probably 2-3 projects to propose on a month, and this one we just didn't feel comfortable with what they were doing. What they're we couldn't address everything in one study, effectively and at the price point, and just we're transparent. Said, hey, this is what we can do with this budget. Here's what we can do. With these objectives, this is what you're going to get. You're not going to get that. And if, as long as they're transparent and know what they're going to get, kind of protects us on the back end. But yeah, I think there's been other cases that we've not even submitted a proposal for things or just declined, because, there's a lot of good faith in that. We don't want a longstanding client. We're not going to say, hey, yeah, we can do it, and then just fail to deliver. That's just going to hurt the relationship in general. So.
Thanks, Mike. I see, Brian, you just asked a question in the chat too, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, sure, Mike. So a few years back, I worked in marketing research also. And how much machine learning are you doing with the survey data? I was actually able to create some really interesting ways to do it that were extremely valuable. And I'm just wondering if you're finding that, are you able to do it, or is this something that you want to try to convince your clients to accept or do?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends. I mean, we definitely do some machine learning on a fairly regular basis with like online behavior, third-party data, and merging that with our survey data. So we do, kind of an ensemble approach. There's like 5 different algorithms, random forest, SVM, XGBoost, things like that. We kind of pick the best model of what we're doing. We've done we've done some Bayesian networks. It's kind of weird. Like the research industry goes in, cycles. Like things will be hot, like segmentation. We're doing a ton of segmentation right now. And I think a lot of that's from COVID. Like just the markets are changing. People are buying things differently. They're interacting with brands differently. So a lot of brands are trying to understand how the market has shifted. So, segmentations are super hot right now. Bayesian networks were probably hot 2 years ago. Like we did 4 or 5 Bayesian networks a year. Now we haven't touched one in 2 years. So, things just go in cycles. Most of our data from survey research is probably 2,000 completes or under. And then a lot of our clients just want to cut and slice data. So, some techniques are useful, some are not, just with, the amount of data we have. I think we're trying to engage with our EMX team, in terms of programmatic, trying to get our hands on, different agency clients and try to just onboard the alternative data sources. As we get larger and larger data, that's where kind of the machine learning and things like that. But a lot of our bread and butter stuff is segmentation, through K-means or even like Sawtooth there, like CCEA. So it's like an ensemble approach of various techniques, basic regressions, conjoint work, max diff work, some pricing stuff with like Van West and, price laddering through Gabbard Granger. So that's most of our bread and butter. We're trying to go, be more strategic and try to get more data sources and things like that, which is where kind of predictive modeling comes in. I think is frankly where the future. I think a lot of our clients, they want to know what's going to happen in the future rather than what has happened in the past, which is kind of typical market research, is kind of, backwards looking, what happened in the past. I think a lot of clients now are like, how can I use the data from trackers or other stuff to predict what's going to happen, or, the early indicators of things. So.
Yeah, I found one thing was to change the whole survey technique. So you could actually do 2,000 in the survey world is a lot of responses. So are you using a Likert scale or are you using something else?
Yeah,
get rid of the Likert scale. Get rid of the Likert scale. Go to a 0 to 10 scale or a 1 to 10 scale. And then you'll need binary outcomes and you'll find logistic regression or elastic net will do amazing things for you. Like a simple way to think about it is NPS, right? You ask the NPS question, but then you ask 10 follow-ups or 9 or 8 or whatever your favorite number is. Scale those 1 to 10. Now you'll be able to say, hey, for every increase in this area that you improve, your NPS is going to go up or down by Y. And what it also identifies is where the problems are. So I've actually used that for several companies, and it's like, all right, you got to fix this problem. They actually did. They would spend months doing it. Next thing you know, you do the NPS score again, 3 more, it goes up 3.5 points. And it's kind of like, interesting. It works. And so it's like, all right, take care of the next question. But the biggest thing is getting research to get rid of the Likert scale. Statistically, it has too many problems with it. And you'll get nice variability out of a 1 to 10 scale. And next thing you know, I think you'll find yourself with some really, like, even I've done it with 1,200 responses and you get statistically significant results.
Yeah. So, that's, a lot of times it's client preference. We have surveys that have 5-point scales, 7-point scale, 10-point scales, 11-point scales. We just had a conversation last week with a survey, somebody new to their company came on, is most of their survey was 10-point scales. They want to switch everything to 11-point scales, but maintain trending. Like, what does that do? It's like, is there really a benefit to that? Like you're changing 11 or 10 to 11 for personal preference and you still want to maintain trending. But that was an interesting conversation. But yeah, we actually have a simulator that's like our CX ROI, that it's all, 10-point scale based questions, logistic regression, for every point, on an independent variable, you gain X on the DV. And then we've actually tied that to some of their sales data. So, for every new loyal customer you get, you're gaining, say $500, and we kind of extrapolate that out per 1,000 customers so they can kind of get an ROI feed. So that's actually one of our shiny simulators that we've delivered to one of our clients. So yeah.
Sounds like one of your clients was a fan of Spinal Tap or something like that. So they wanted to go to an 11, because it was better than 10.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess the traditional NPS is on 11, but it's like, okay, but do you want to go to 11 just because you want to go to 11, or you want to maintain trending that you've done for 2-3 years? So, when they report in means and they report full scale, so it's like, there's going to be variability. Like, we can do our best to kind of calibrate it, but there's going to be change. So
with this like survey topic, I am always curious about like what happens when I just get very tired of a survey halfway through. Like, I have really good intentions of answering it for the company, and I like the person was great and I want like their 5 stars to get through, but then they just keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously being in this industry, I'm the worst survey taker. Like, I hate taking surveys, and like, I just pick them apart. And yeah, I mean, that's a huge problem. Clients particularly, like, hey, let's do this 30-minute survey. And like, nobody's going to take it. Like, you're going to get 15 minutes in and people bail. So, respondent engagement, respondent fatigue, like those are huge concerns and things that we deal with on a daily basis. If you get garbage data, you're going to have garbage analysis. So, make sure you design it right. Make sure you build a questionnaire that asks questions that you want, and cut out the fluff, cut to the point, keep it focused.
Yeah, was my idea, is like 5 questions, maybe 10 max. One of them should be a binary. More than that, you better be paying your respondents.
Yeah.
And when you pay your respondents, you can get a whole different story. But you're right. I mean, survey fatigue, huge issue. Like, somebody wanted to do one with like 20 questions, like, you're wasting your time. You're not going to get anybody you'll get like 2 people to finish it.
Yep.
And then like Rachel was pointing out, you got to worry about, we used to see straight liners. You get the same score all the way across, all
Yep.
5, 10, 15 questions. Like,
which the difficult thing is, like, sometimes that's logical. I mean, sometimes
it is reasonable.
that's a real
And that
question.
was one of the discussions, like I said, is I'm not going to remove those just because you think they
Right.
are. You don't, unless they tell you that somewhere in the survey that.
Right. I mean, that's a lot of our data quality initiatives. Like, there's 4 or 5 flags, and you got to fail 2 or 3 of them because it took me 10 minutes to go through the survey, but I straight lined everything. Okay, maybe that's a logical answer. If somebody did a straight liner in 30 seconds or a minute, sure, they're probably cheating, or it's a bot or other things. But it's varied, and that's kind of back to data stewardship. People are like, oh, let's throw these people out. Well, there's indication that that's a logical response. So we're not just going to chuck them out because we don't like them. So.
I know we're a few
Well,
minutes
if you want,
over.
I can shoot you a presentation after this that we gave to the marketing group.
Share it in the chat, Brian.
I don't know. Can you send a file?
I can put it. I'll put it on the Meetup
You have it.
GitHub
Yeah, you have
too.
it.
I'll put it in the LinkedIn. I was just curious too, like with this conversation about surveys, if you had any just like immediate tips for us all, even if we're like polling our own colleagues or asking them about like a shiny app that we made or something. Are there tips that you have for surveys we do internally?
No, I mean, I think, respondent fatigue is the biggest one. Ask questions. I think double barrel questions are bad. Like, just a general, don't make sure your question is asking what you want people to respond to. Make sure there's no way for other people to interpret it differently. So, a good question is, write the question well, so you're getting a response that people understand what you're asking. And just keep it short, keep it focused. Make sure you're asking people what you want to get out of it. It's very easy to start going down the rabbit hole of, oh, I'd love to have this data. I'd love to have that data. Every time you add a question that's not focused on your main objective, it's just fluff. People are, why are you asking me this? Why, it's a 5-minute questionnaire. Well, now it's a 10-minute questionnaire because you added 5-10 other questions that don't really pertain to what you want to get out of it. So garbage in, garbage out. I think that's, keep it focused. People, are so consumed with a ton of other things. If you can ask a 5-minute questionnaire and 5-minute survey, get in, get out. So
Thank you. I just want to check that I didn't miss any questions earlier from the chat or from Slido if anyone wants to jump in. Give people a few more seconds here. Well,
I think there was one question about on Slido SPSS.
oh, okay.
Said I haven't seen that tool in a while.
Oh, I see it. What do you use SPSS for was the question.
Yeah, so basically every project that we run has an SPSS file. So a lot of our like data tabulations. So we run things through DimNet, which is our main like survey platform that we script and basically serves a link to have people complete. So that's all run through Dimensions, and then that kind of exports into SPSS. So when our data tabulation team creates Excel tabs and then everything like that, basically creates an SPSS folder or an SPSS file. So if there's correlations or regressions or things like that, it's very easy to just hop in there and run it. SPSS, in my opinion, has really good kind of diagnostics. I think a lot of R and Python things, sometimes it just runs and gives you minimal outputs, in some of the packages. So there's just a lot of, I think, tried and trueness. That's kind of what I learned in college and kind of grew up learning and feel comfortable with, and we still use it because it's easy, accessible. We have the licenses, but a lot of it's just as easy to export as a CSV and throw it in R or Python if we need it too. So it's got the data labels, it's got the value labels right there. When we get the file, you just open it and see, run basic frequencies, correlations, and things pretty quickly and easily. So
if people do have follow-up, oh, there's some echo. I don't know where it's coming from. If people do have follow-up questions though, or want to connect with you, is LinkedIn the best place?
Yep, LinkedIn's great. That easy way to connect and chat, and can follow up with any questions or anything like that.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for chatting with us and sharing all your experience. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining today too.